Welcome back to Business Week here on Arise News. Nigeria's tax landscape is undergoing a major shift as technology becomes central to how individuals and businesses meet their obligations. With digital payments, data-driven systems, and automated platforms reshaping the way revenue is collected, regulators and innovators are redefining what tax compliance looks like in the modern economy. As tech meets tax, new opportunities and challenges are emerging across the country's digital marketplace. In this conversation, we hear from Abiola Laseinde, CEO of Ednisal Consulting, to understand how these technological changes are influencing compliance regulation and the future of Nigeria's digital tax ecosystem. Good morning and welcome to Business Week. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Fantastic. So I guess my first question is, how would you describe the current impact of technology on Nigeria's overall tax system, tax administration, tax collection, tax participation, evasion, avoidance? How is technology actually changing the name of the game?
The truth is that technology has become, of course, the biggest leverage, the biggest game changer, is the biggest narrative now that requires everyone to have a mind shift, to require everyone to begin to look at their processes, look at their talents, look at how to key into that conversation. We've moved away completely from the era where we're just paper. We are, rushing into the banks to fill papers in order for us to, comply with our tax obligation. Now it's a completely new narrative. And for me, technology has become that platform where we can pivot.
Okay.
Because if we don't, then we become irrelevant. And then the burden on compliance, the burden on even corruption, creeping into the conversation becomes what?
Right.
It becomes really elevated. So right now, we are harnessing technology. The entire ecosystem is speaking to this right now. It's a multi-sectoral approach. Nobody can be left behind.
Okay, so now you've said that, can you give us some very specific examples of how digital tools or technology will actually improve or drive tax compliance so that heading into 2026, we have a new tax framework, regulation.
Absolutely.
How can we prepare our minds? What should we be looking out for? How will we address our concerns around tax? How is technology going to help us assess our tax better, or the people who manage our tax for us?
I mean, that's a very instructive question. And again, the onus is on us. Right now, we know what is coming upon us. So it's for us to become a knowledge-seeking society.
Okay.
One community per time, one organization per time, one individual that has a large, sphere of influence per time. So we are deliberate. For instance, we just had a program 2 weeks ago. It was the CIO Awards, and we started it with a conference that expatiated on this topic, the digital tax shift. Can you imagine? You're wondering, why would a conference or an awarding body start with that? Because we realize that is going to be one of our biggest pain points. And the event allows us to do like an empowerment session that is briefly done before we dovetail into the main ceremony. So for us, that was us giving back to ensure that everyone who came into the room, whether you were a high network professional, you're my auntie, you're like a grandfather, or someone who is definitely situated somewhere in the ecosystem, you left the room with knowledge on how things have to change.
Okay, and so can you give us a practical example of how things will change? So if in terms of tax compliance, if technology is driving tax compliance, how is it a platform, is it a system, is it a new dashboard that is going to help my business comply better with tax? What has Mr. Taiwo Oyedele's regulation and all the work they've done, what are the technology tools that we have to become familiar with in terms of tax compliance, some practical examples or things to expect?
I mean, I can easily give you an example of a tax pro. It will be shocking for you to know that it's not everyone who is on it right now.
Tax Pro being?
Tax Pro is the digital payment portal that was established by the FIRS. And then it went all the way to the states, revenue services. That's the simplest example where if you ask like 10 Nigerians, are you on your portal? Do you use a tax pro? They're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
That has been existent even before COVID. But there's so many people who are still not aware. So I'll tell you that there's so many digital payment, for instance, the Fintech, I don't have to start mentioning names. They deduct taxes automatically, but lots of us, we don't even realize it, that this goes through an entire integration platform, a global payment integration platform where you're paying taxes, but you're not aware. So for me, I think the biggest, or one of the biggest challenges would be about awareness. Are we really ready to pivot? Are we really ready to get into this? And that's why, programs like this and what we do back in my community.
Okay, so tell us about what you do. So the new tax regulation is coming into force 1st of January 2026.
Yes.
Today is the 6th of December, I believe. What can, let's take a small SME do between now and January to be ready to seamlessly integrate into that new tax framework from a technology perspective?
I think the biggest, let me use the word quickest, like a low-hanging fruit, would be to jump into conversations that are already trending. I told you that we had the biggest CIO awards in Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an award of excellence that recognizes and celebrates the technology leaders across Africa. We're in 15 African countries plus Nigeria. And we started that award with a digital tax shift conversation.
So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So we need to be educated. We need to be aware.
Absolutely.
We need to understand the utility of systems like Tax Pro Max.
Absolutely.
Right? So assuming I, as an SME, I'm now fully onboarded, I know what I need to do, I understand how my tax responsibility or will be assessed. I know who I'm using. I know where I can go to the ombudsman because I understand there'll be an office of an ombudsman where I can levy complaints. I've even heard that if they overassess me for tax and they will actually refund me.
Yes.
Now, all of that is meant to go through a system and it's meant to operate seamless. I've even been told by Mr. Oyedele that if I underpay, they will come after me. Banks are now partners to the taxman so that your accounts can even be put on hold if you're owing the government and you're not fulfilling your duty. All of that is part of an integrated technology system. I'm putting all my data out there now, ma'am. What are the risks in terms of data privacy, cybersecurity that this new technology interface and integrated system of tax poses to me as a business?
Thank you. The first thing would be for us to actually get subject matter experts to work with. Okay. So I'm not going to go on this journey alone. Number one, I'm going to seek knowledge. I'm going to get better at understanding how I can harness everything I have. And then most importantly, I'm going to handhold with those who can help me with an individual, a firm that can help me with my cyber security hygiene practices. So I need to be aware and not just walk this alone. And the funny thing is that we can actually use technology in lieu of even looking for, firms and, organizations can help. We can go into harnessing AI and all the things that would definitely work for me. You can throw all your tax obligations, where your data is going, into an AI generative, platform, and it will pinpoint where you're going to have risk.
Okay, so that for me is in my head already raising red flags, because you'd have seen some news during the week about how, I think it was ChatGPT, one of the AI platforms that people use, has been asked under some sort of legal process to submit data in terms of conversations. I don't recall the exact term that was used. So in terms of being able to even input my data into some of these AI platforms, what are some of the risks I face? Should I be reading the fine print in my use of some of these technology platforms? And would it be better to still have that human element in terms of my tax assessment, my tax burden, and the compliance process to complement the use of technology?
You would definitely need to leverage the best, what I call the best of both worlds. You definitely need to leverage maybe the 3 Ps I always talk about: technology, talent, and trust. How do you dimensionalize these 3 Ps when it comes to your technology and tax and other obligations? Technology is there, but how are you, ensuring that you put the safeguards? You're not just putting everything in your data without some, real guards to just help you safeguard your privacy, your information, and then your cyber hygiene practices. Sitting in front of a subject matter expert, a cybersecurity expert who can help you dimensionalize even how this phone, is such a powerful tool that you don't take anything for granted. Having an understanding is, knowledge, to say, is a new oil, is a new gold. So having an understanding of how to harness all these three dimensions, and of course, trust, because you're releasing data, you're monitoring it. I mean, one day I was sitting in front of a passport immigration officer. I was renewing my passport, and he started reading out my travel history like 13 years back. I was shocked. And he said to me that, look, what you have in your hand is a digital passport. That's why we're able to track and trace. I left that environment like government is doing a lot that we're not even aware of. That's why it would be easy for anyone to look for me and tell me that within this period, you were in this place, and then we realized that you are actually exonerated from a crime, or you were an accomplice. So what am I saying? The era where we need to look at, those three pillars is now. Technology, I will repeat, talent, and of course, trust. Talent is how you're not just the only one elevated when it comes to knowledge, but you're carrying your entire ecosystem.
Sure, fantastic. Now, let's talk a bit more about compliance. What are some of the major trends you're seeing with compliance? Because that's an area of consulting, presumably, that you work in. Tell us about compliance. How has compliance evolved? Is there any data point or statistics that we can sort of ride on to better understand the compliance picture in Nigeria around tax?
Compliance, around tax, you can't leave, the conversation on technology out of it. That's why I gave the simplest example that it's still a gap. It's still a huge gap. I left a forum now, and someone asked when I was talking about this program, and it was, I don't even know where to start from. And I was like, have you done an audit to even know where you're stacking? Have you done an audit to, check the gaps that you have in your system? And please don't do this alone, because you have your focus area. So essentially hire an expert,
get a compliance expert.
Yes, get into the classroom, understand what is coming on you. So for me, compliance will always be, a must-have. It's something that will elevate your business, that will elevate your profile as a compliant organization, and of course makes you more attractive to your investors and those who will potentially want to do business with you. So it's not something you can act out of ignorance, but how would technology help you? How would the subject matter expert help you with this? We sat down at that forum I talked about, and we had insight from Kenya, from South Africa, and we're like, Nigeria is not doing badly at all.
Okay, how is Nigeria doing better?
Nigeria is literally leading the pack.
Okay, can you give us specific examples of how we're leading?
We are going very close to having our smart cities right now. We're building infrastructure that will enable you plug and play into a high level of compliance, platforms without any much, disruption. So Nigeria, we saw that Nigeria wasn't doing badly at all in terms of how we're harnessing technology, especially like a Lagos state, where everything is now driven through an integrated, system payment, an integrated tax system payment.
This is Lagos State Tax Collection System.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can pay your land charges, you can pay your taxes, online, right in the comfort of your home. So we did some of this comparative analysis, and we're like, we're not somewhere behind.
That's music to our ears. So just one final quick thought around the role of fintech and digital payments. How do you think they will influence this conversation? And what specific trends or solutions are they bringing to help SMEs and bigger businesses in terms of the whole tax compliance framework?
Thank you. The fintech is changing the undeserved, the informal sector, and those who normally will, run away from the complexity of all of these digitally driven platforms. They're simplifying the conversation around how do I ensure that I'm paying right, and I'm also meeting my obligation, fulfilling my... The fintechs are doing this powerfully for us.
Can you give us any concrete examples as to how they're helping to simplify the process? You're
paying online for a product or services, and your taxes are deducted from the source, right? And then you have a receipt, right? Like, all these POS services, the, payment agents, they're doing marvelously well with that. So you're able to quantify per time what you're doing, in terms of your tax obligation. So for me, it's like a low-hanging fruit. It's something that you cannot, replace with me walking into, the financial services, banks, and buildings like that. But they're making life easy for everyone, unless you look the other way or you choose not to be aware.
Okay.
So education, empowerment is really about...
And, you know, as we run out of time, just one final question. When you look at this entire conversation, there's so many stakeholders involved.
Yeah.
You have the tax man, right? The collectors. You have the people who pay the tax, right?
True.
Who are part of the tax net. You have the infrastructure, the systems. You have the policymakers, the government, the regulators. Now we'll have our ombudsman and someone we can run to when we're not happy. Who do you think is the most important actor in all of this to ensure that this system is resilient, achieve its goal? Because this is also about revenues and national development ultimately.
Absolutely.
If you look at where all of this debate is going, it's really about Nigeria's development.
Absolutely.
Right? So who amongst those actors is the most important?
It's definitely the consumers. It's definitely, you know, the ordinary men and women on the streets, because we are the focus of this. We are the one generating the revenue. We're the one contributing, you know, through our multi-sectoral approaches, contributing to the GDP of Nigeria. So we are the most important. And I'll say this, we need to, you know, put a demand on having like a national stakeholders workshop on this, with our different representatives across the OPS, the organized private sector, the representative of the, you know, the multi-sectoral, you know, community of Nigeria. So we are the consumer, the taxpayers, were the most important element, because without us, there can't be anything working.
Indeed. And we certainly need to cast that net wider so that those at the bottom of the pyramid also enter the tax net.
Absolutely.
In a way that is accessible even with the advent of technology.
Exactly, especially fintech, because they have their mobile phone now doing everything my computer can do.
Yeah, so that's key. Even as we adopt technology, financial inclusion still needs to be
Absolutely.
part of that story. Thank you so much for joining us and offering us your
Thank you.
views on tax compliance and technology in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you.